They say the darkest hour is just before dawn. And I believe that because every morning at 4 a.m., when the world sleeps, I wake up to meet myself. The silence of that hour doesn't scare me. It strengthens me. It's the hour when dreams whisper louder, when clarity replaces chaos, and when the heart learns what it truly wants. You don't have to wake up early to impress the world. You wake up early to find yourself. And once you find yourself, you can change your life. You know, people often ask me, why 4 a.m.? Why not 6 or 7? And I smile because 4 a.m. isn't about the number. It's about the silence. It's about that sacred moment when the world is still asleep. And for the first time in 24 hours, you can actually hear yourself think. The world is loud. Opinions, judgments, expectations, they all keep shouting at us from sunrise to sunset. But at 4 a.m., that noise disappears. It's just you, your thoughts, and your heartbeat reminding you that you are still alive, still capable, still becoming. There's something incredibly powerful about meeting yourself before you meet the world. When you wake up at that hour, you are not reacting, you are creating, you are not running after life, you are preparing to lead it. In those quiet moments, you begin to see yourself not as the world defines you, but as you truly are, raw, real, and beautifully human. You see your fears without judgment, your dreams without doubt, and your strength without apology. I remember the first time I started waking up early. It wasn't easy. My body protested, my mind resisted. But slowly I began to fall in love with that silence. I realized that peace doesn't come from escaping the world. It comes from understanding yourself in the middle of it. When you sit alone in that stillness, maybe with a cup of tea, maybe in prayer, you learn the art of listening. Listening not to the chaos outside, but to the whispers within. Those whispers are your intuition, your purpose, your truth, the parts of you that often get lost in the rush of the day. You begin to notice how your thoughts wander, how your emotions rise and fall, how your heart responds to gratitude. And that awareness, that is where transformation begins. Because before you can change your life, you must first see it clearly. Before you can build new habits, you must understand what needs to heal. And before you can inspire others, you must learn to inspire yourself. At 4 a.m., when the stars are fading and the sun is still shy, the world gives you a gift, time. Time to breathe without deadlines, to think without pressure, to just be. It's not about being productive, it's about being present. It's a reminder that your worth is not measured by how fast you run, but by how deeply you connect with yourself, with your creator, with your purpose. And when you finally step into the daylight, after spending that quiet hour with your soul, something shifts. You carry a calm strength, an inner peace that no chaos can steal, because you've already faced the hardest part, your own reflection, and you've made peace with it. So tomorrow, when the world sleeps, I want you to wake up, not just from your bed, but from within. Wake up to meet yourself, because the moment you do, your entire life begins to change. Discipline is a word we don't often fall in love with, isn't it? We like passion, we like motivation, those moments when the heart feels full and the world feels possible. But the truth is, motivation is like a spark, bright, beautiful, but short-lived. It comes and goes with emotions. Discipline, on the other hand, is the steady flame that keeps burning even when everything around you feels cold and dark. It's what you hold on to when inspiration disappears. When you decide to wake up at 4 a.m., it's not because every day feels magical. Some mornings it feels heavy. Some mornings the bed feels too comfortable and life feels too complicated. But discipline is when you whisper to yourself, I'll do it anyway. That simple act, choosing yourself over your excuses, is where transformation begins. Discipline isn't about punishing yourself, it's about honoring yourself. It's about saying, I am worth showing up for, even on the days I don't feel like it. People think that successful lives are built on extraordinary moments, but they're actually built on ordinary mornings, done with consistency. The magic isn't in one big decision, it's in 1,000 small ones. Waking up, showing up, and doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching. Because every time you do, you're not just building a habit, you're building trust in yourself. You see, the moment you keep a promise to yourself, something beautiful happens inside. Your confidence grows quietly, your belief strengthens, and you stop waiting for others to validate you. You realize that your self-worth is no longer dependent on applause or approval, it's built on your own integrity. When you say you'll do something and actually do it, you become your own inspiration. There will be days when you fail. There will be mornings when you hit snooze, afternoons when you lose focus, nights when you feel like giving up. But discipline doesn't mean perfection, it means persistence. It means getting back up, even if you fell yesterday. It means being kind enough to forgive yourself, but strong enough not to quit. That's how growth happens. Not in the absence of failure, but in the courage to rise after it. And here's the secret. Discipline eventually becomes freedom. It frees you from regret, from guilt, from the weight of unfinished dreams. It gives you structure and life feels uncertain direction when everything else feels lost. Discipline teaches you that you don't need to feel ready, you just need to begin. When you wake up early, when you keep showing up day after day, you're not just building a routine, you're rewriting your story. You're proving to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses, more powerful than your doubts, and more capable than you ever imagined. Because the moment you choose discipline over motivation, you no longer wait for life to happen. You start creating it. There is something magical about the early hours of the morning, a kind of stillness that feels almost sacred. When you wake up at 4 a.m., your mind isn't cluttered yet. The worries of yesterday have quieted down, and the noise of the day hasn't begun. It's like life gives you a blank page every morning, and you get to decide what story you will write on it. In that silence, your thoughts are clearer, your emotions are softer, and your creativity flows effortlessly. That's the beauty of the early morning. It gifts you clarity and creativity, not because the world changes, but because you do. Our minds are like mirrors. During the day, they get fogged with information, conversations, stress, and responsibilities. But in the early morning, that fog hasn't formed yet. You can see your reflection clearly. You can see your goals, your purpose, your next step. Things that often feel blurred in the chaos of daily life. This is the time to think, to dream, to plan without pressure. When you sit quietly at dawn, your thoughts are not driven by deadlines. They're guided by intention. And intention, that's what turns ordinary actions into meaningful ones. I often say that the best ideas don't come from noise, they come from silence. Some of the most creative breakthroughs in history were born in solitude, in stillness. The early hours are not about productivity, they are about presence. When your mind is calm, creativity finds you. You start to notice things you missed before, the sound of your own breathing, the patterns of your thoughts, the ideas that have been waiting patiently for your attention. Inspiration doesn't knock on loud doors. It whispers to the ones who are quiet enough to listen. When you wake up early and give yourself that space, you begin to design your day with purpose. You can write down your goals, visualize your dreams, and plan how to move toward them with clarity. You stop rushing through life and start moving with direction. You begin your day as a creator, not a reactor. And that small shift from reacting to creating changes everything. Because when your day begins with clarity, it doesn't matter what challenges come later. You face them with calmness and focus. There's also a spiritual side to this. In that quiet hour, when the world is still, it's easier to connect, not just with your mind, but with your heart, with your creator, with your sense of purpose. Creativity isn't only about art or ideas. It's about aligning yourself with something greater, something that gives meaning to your actions. It's about realizing that every thought you think, every step you take can be a form of creation, a reflection of who you truly are. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't just wake up your body, wake up your mind. Give yourself that quiet hour to think, to dream, to create. Because clarity doesn't just help you see the path ahead. It helps you become the person who is ready to walk it. When you wake up at 4 a.m. before the world starts moving, there's something deeply spiritual about at stillness. It's as if time slows down, giving you a chance to breathe and simply exist. In that gentle quiet, gratitude feels more natural, more alive. You see, we spend so much of our lives chasing goals, success, recognition, comfort, but we often forget to pause and appreciate the blessings we already hold in our hands. The morning is the perfect time to do that. It's the time when you can thank life for what you have rather than worry about what you don't. Gratitude grounds you. It reminds you that before you begin to run, you must first remember how far you've already come. When you begin your day with gratitude, you invite peace into your heart. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Thank you. Thank you for another day to try, to learn, to love, to live." Gratitude doesn't mean you ignore your struggles. It means you recognize the lessons within them. It's not pretending everything is perfect. It's choosing to see purpose even in imperfection. That shift in perspective changes everything. The world outside may still be chaotic, but inside you start to feel calm. You begin to realize that happiness isn't something you chase. It's something you nurture. There's a kind of beauty in starting your morning not with a to-do list, but with a thankful heart. You could be sitting by your window, watching the sky change colors, whispering a quiet prayer. You could write down 3 things you're grateful for, not big achievements, just small, honest blessings. Maybe it's the roof over your head, the breath in your lungs, or the people who love you despite your flaws. That simple act of appreciation shifts your energy. It makes you softer, kinder, and more aware. You walk through your day with open eyes and an open heart. Gratitude also has a way of deepening your spiritual connection. It brings you closer to the source of your strength, to the one who has been guiding you even when you couldn't see the way. In those quiet early hours when you sit in reflection or prayer, you realize you're never truly alone. There's a presence, gentle yet powerful, reminding you that you are held, that you are guided, that you are enough. That realization fills you with humility, but also with courage, because when you are thankful, fear loses its power. Starting your day with gratitude doesn't just change how your morning feels. It changes how you live. You become more patient, more resilient, more peaceful. The little things that used to upset you begin to lose their grip. You no longer rush through life. You begin to move through it with grace. So when the sun rises tomorrow, don't just open your eyes. Open your heart. Whisper a quiet thank you, and let gratitude be the first language your soul speaks. Change never happens overnight. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, with small choices that seem too simple to matter. Waking up early, for example, isn't about a grand transformation that happens the moment you open your eyes at 4 a.m. It's about the small, consistent steps that lead you there, the gradual shaping of a new rhythm, a new way of being. You don't have to leap into it all at once. You just have to begin. Maybe tomorrow you wake up 15 minutes earlier than usual, and the next day a little more. Because big shifts don't come from pressure, they come from persistence. We often underestimate the power of small habits. We wait for motivation, for the perfect moment, for life to feel ready. But the truth is, waiting doesn't change anything. Doing does. Even the smallest act of discipline can begin to rewire your mind, to remind you that you are capable of growth. Each morning you choose to rise, even a little earlier than before. You send a quiet message to yourself. I am in control of my choices. And that message, repeated over time, becomes your strength. Creating a 4 a.m. routine isn't about copying someone else's pattern. It's about finding what nourishes you or soul. Maybe for you, it's sitting in silence with a cup of tea. Maybe it's journaling your thoughts or writing down your intentions for the day. Maybe it's stretching your body or simply breathing deeply, allowing yourself to arrive fully in the moment. What matters isn't how perfect the routine looks, but how intentional it feels. The goal is not to fill that hour with activity, it's to fill it with meaning. These small habits slowly create a foundation that is unshakable. Over time, they build consistency, and consistency builds confidence. You begin to realize that you can depend on yourself. And when you can depend on yourself, the world around you begins to feel less uncertain. You stop reacting to circumstances and start creating your own direction. You stop blaming time and you start managing it. The truth is, every great transformation begins with small, quiet, unseen efforts, the kind that no one applauds you for, but that shape your destiny in silence. And yes, there will be days when it feels hard, when you slip back into old patterns, when your bed feels warmer than your dreams. But progress is not about perfection. It's about showing up again and again and again. Even the smallest effort matters. One early morning can change the tone of your day. A few consistent mornings can change the rhythm of your life. So don't wait for the right time to start. Begin where you are, with what you have, and take one small step toward who you want to become. Because when small habits are done with heart, they lead to the biggest changes of all. Waking up at 4 a.m. isn't just about changing your schedule, it's about changing your identity. It's about becoming someone new, someone who chooses growth over comfort, consistency over excuses, and purpose over procrastination. Every time you rise before the world does, you make a quiet declaration to yourself, I am ready to become who I'm meant to be. That choice, though small, begins to transform everything about the way you think, act, and live. Most of us live in the comfort of, I can't. We tell ourselves stories about why something isn't possible. We don't have the time, the energy, the opportunity. But those stories are just fears dressed as logic. The moment you decide to wake up early, to do something difficult but meaningful, you start rewriting that story. You replace I can't with I can, and eventually with I am. Because transformation isn't about changing what you do once, it's about changing who you believe you are. There is a deep power in proving yourself wrong. That first morning when you rise while it's still dark outside, you realize that you are capable of more than you thought. That simple act becomes a mirror, showing you not your limits, but your strength. It's in that hour when you face your resistance, your tiredness, your doubts, and you move through them anyway. You stop waiting for confidence to arrive, you build it through action. You stop waiting for the right time, you create it by showing up. Transformation begins quietly. It's not loud or dramatic. It's in the moments no one sees. When you choose effort over ease, when you replace complaining with gratitude, when you refuse to give up on yourself. And over time, those choices shape your identity. You start walking differently, speaking differently, thinking differently. You start seeing yourself not as someone who tries, but as someone who becomes. There will always be voices, both inside and outside, that tell you it's too hard, too early, too ambitious. But those voices fade when your purpose gets louder. Because when you wake up early and spend that sacred time aligning your mind, your body, and your soul, you start to understand who you truly are, beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond expectation. You begin to embody the version of yourself that once felt distant, the one who is calm yet determined, humble yet unstoppable. And the most beautiful part, you realize that the person you were waiting to become was never somewhere in the future. They were always within you, waiting to be awakened. So when you rise tomorrow, don't just open your eyes. Rise with intention. Rise not as who you were yesterday, but as who you are meant to be. Because once you choose transformation over comfort, you don't just change your mornings, you change your life.